difficulties, and now my whole thing has gone away. Thank you. That is not it. Okay, do you have the clean policy, Jenny? Is this the one that you sent the other board members? Excellent. Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started now. You all were sent the equity policy that Dr. Long and I have worked on. And I'm just, again, going to try and put a little bit of a bracket around why we're working on policy, which seems counterintuitive what we actually want to have happen, which is a policy. I tried to just distill it down in my mind, what is the difference? And so the first, I just put it as our policy would be that play is important for children. That's a policy that the district would have, the board would put out. But then you have the procedure that goes to that policy. That's where the real work that we bring everybody in on. So it would be something like our procedures would be, there's going to be a sandbox, and there's going to be 20 minutes of outside play every day, and there's going to be crayons and paper available to all children. So those are the procedures that fit our policy, which is play is important for children. So when we're talking about making an equity policy, it's that overall directive that the board, our belief system about the policy, and then procedures are going to fill that up. And when we get to that part of things, that's when we're going to need to go out and bring in all of our stakeholders and all of the people. And it's going to be a huge undertaking. It's not going to be something that's done just by 10 people in a room. It's going to be a big community event to try and really fill out our procedures. Marty, is that about the upshot of it? I mean, what we're working on here, the point here?
That's
So,
correct.
okay, so you all got a copy of the policy. So now Dr. Long is going to kind of walk us through how we got to this policy.
Well, we were given a lot of information. Now, I've read it all numerous times. And what I tried to do was synthesize it into something that would make sense.
There's no one talking.
Okay? Is everybody there? Cindy, can you hear me? Okay. Anyway, the process that we went through was to try and abbreviate all the information we had been given, to synthesize it down into something that was understandable by students, parents, and the community. And that's what we tried to do. So if you'd like to go through the policy, they've already been, Marty, did you make the changes?
I made those changes.
You made these changes? Okay, thank you, Cindy. I can't see the whole document. Is there any way I can scroll it? Jenny? I want to be able to look at the whole thing. I can only.
Director Long, you're going to have to go paragraph by paragraph.
Okay. Well, anyway, that's what Sarah and I did. Cindy has gone through and made some very welcomed improvements. So if we want to just go through and read it page by page. Sarah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that would be good. I mean, let's talk, and as we go through, then if you could just chime in with what you think is good about it, what's bad about it, what you think should be changed or added. I don't know if we want to read through the whole thing first and then start.
Well, I'd like to see what Cindy did. See, I can only see 2 paragraphs. Is there any?
Okay, do you have the original copy?
So would you like me to tell you what I did?
I can't hear you, Cindy.
You can't hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So what I did is like what I do for all policies on the policy committee. I just went through and did some grammar changes. And then it's really not the school board, it's really the district.
Right.
I just changed some PA school district to district. And from board to district.
Okay.
And then I changed from some things from employees to staff members like we always do.
From employee to what? I'm sorry.
Staff members, that's what always our language says. It doesn't just say employees, it says staff members.
Okay.
And then where there's should, I put will. Or if it was may, I put will. And that's kind of about all I did. I'm trying to think, go to the second page. Basically just took the board and wrote the district. Anyway, that's, yeah. So I figured this probably won't be our last conversation since Katie's not able to join us tonight. That we'll have further conversation. I did see that you guys, when I gave you that draft, that you took the stuff from the procedures out, which is great because that would definitely be in the procedures. But I guess we're going to go not as usual with our procedures. We're going to do something abnormal that we don't usually do and go out to the public. So that's a change in our board policy.
Okay. Thank
So-
you, Cindy. Thank you for going in and doing that cleanup. I really appreciate that. So
When you say that's a change to board policy, do you mean an actual official policy or a change to the way we normally do things? I apologize. So when you say a change to policy, do you mean an official?
Are you talking to me, Sarah?
Okay. When you say that that's a change from policy, do you mean an official board policy or do you mean a way that we do things?
The way we do things. I haven't looked in policy, but it usually says that the superintendent does the procedures and all we do is we get to look at them. So I guess when we go to regular session, I would just like that put in the record that in this equity policy that we're going to go out to the community and to do the procedures.
Right, and that's up to the superintendent how he wants to make procedures happen. So I don't know that we don't have to go to a specific policy for that. I just got confused with your use of the word policy. So other than changing the words district or board to district, which is great, and the wills to thou, shall, never mind, you know what I mean, the shoulds to wills. What was your impression overall of the document?
I like the document. I'm a little concerned with, as we get into, low self-esteem, mental disease, all that. I just, it concerns me as we move forward if somebody might tell us that we forgot to add something. So it could be more generic and that could be more in the procedure. That was the only concern. As I looked it over again, I was concerned about that.
When I read it, I had a similar thought that perhaps some language should be included that allows it to evolve as new things come up.
So what I liked about exactly what you all are talking about is exactly that it tried to reach every intersectionality of humanity that we have, because people fit into a variety of identities. And so that being such a long list and how it does speak to the social emotional status, these are things that have not really been called out in any of our policies before. The homelessness and the food insecurity, all of these things are things that all of our kids are facing when we talk about what are inequities. So I really loved the fact that it was such a huge list. And honestly, if something else comes up before we get through it, if we've missed something, which we're not infallible, I'm certain we have, but this is one of the most complete lists I saw in any of the policies we reviewed. So I just really thought, wow, we did good in this list. And there will be other things and we can add them, but I don't want to back off the list because then you're not hitting I want to hit all of these. I think they're all important when we're talking about equity. So that was my take on that one, but this is good.
So we have to give the credit to Highline School District because that's where I got the language from.
Absolutely. There's so many different districts were, and your work too, Cindy. I mean, it was all, Sandy really tried to pull in the hugest variety of different ideas. I think she did a really fabulous job. Okay, so was that all you wanted to add about that, Cindy, or did you have more things to point out? I'm trying really hard to speak lightly. I'm sorry that this isn't working quite as well as I want. But okay, how about Jared? Did you have other things you want that struck you as? You're not Jared, you're Jacob. That's why you're looking at me like that. He's like, dude, I'm not Jared. Sorry, I was thinking about the computer and then that went to Jared, which, okay. Did you have anything else that was? You think?
Let me repeat that on Zoom. I believe you've covered everything for now, and then we can cross whatever bridge comes when we come to it.
So is this a document that you would feel is complete enough to send to a first read?
I do.
Okay. Cindy, what about you? Do you feel that way?
I don't know if, maybe Jenny knows if Katie's had a chance to review it. I would really like to get comments from Katie before we take it to a first read, just to be respectful.
She has seen it and she is reviewing it. So I know that she has, because she responded to me and said that she has seen it and she's reviewing it. So she will send me her comments.
And my recommendation to the board would be, rather than send this directly to first read, we have a policy committee. And so when the content, and that's what I think we really, I'm not sure we need to, look at it, maybe the all-inclusive right now, but the content of the policy, if we're comfortable as a board of 5, then that can be vetted through the policy committee. And once that's completed, then it can come back to the board as a first reading. That would be my recommendation to the school board, because our policy committee is, community-based and has a variety of stakeholders within the policy committee to provide their feedback through that process. So that would be my recommendation. If the content is close to what the board expects in policy, then turn that over to the policy committee would be my recommendation.
See? Okay, and that's why I keep you on, because you keep me honest there, because I forget the different things and steps we have to go through. Okay, what I'll say I like about this equity policy is I really feel that, and I had some people, particularly my son, read it over, and I do feel like it gives us the right amount of acceptance that we have some accountability here. I'm over having a policy where we don't take some responsibility that in fact we have problems and we need to address them. And I feel like this policy really does call that out. I mean, it's not like it's all the Port Angeles School District's fault that we have racism in the world or sexism in the world, but it does show that I think, shows that we do take some acceptance and have some accountability there. So Sandy, I really appreciated that part of it. And I mean, I've been over this 100 times, so
Could I circle back around to the procedure? I think the recommendation that I would make to the board is the procedure will really be around the work in equity and the strategic planning process. So I think I heard two different things from the board. My recommendation to the board is the procedure, that is written by, administration, but the strategic plan, that enacts this policy would be helped to craft through, many, many people throughout our community. And so the strategic plan really becomes like the procedure on what you want to accomplish on the embedded expectations within the policy. So I need some clarity from the board on that. When you're referencing procedure, do you mean strategic plan or are you referencing procedure?
May I speak to that?
please.
Sarah,
I can't hear Sandy.
am I okay now? Okay, okay. When we met with Michelle, Marty, while you were gone, one of the things that we discussed was the strategic plan, which in my mind's eye is the next step after this policy, because we are in the place where the time for us to make a new strategic plan. This one goes through next January, if I'm correct. The one we're working under now goes through next January. So we will, the last strategic plan that the board made was made just by the board. There was no outside participation in it. Sarah, the historian, and Cindy, the historian, talked about prior to that there was some strategic planning that we included the community. I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but I do think that, from my understanding, that rather than just having an equity procedure, that the equity will be written into the whole strategic plan. Is that that's my understanding. Am I going in the right direction?
Well, yeah, that's what we put in the last paragraph under implementation and monitoring was the board will instruct the superintendent to develop and implement procedures that will support this equity policy. The PASD strategic plan should also reflect this policy.
Okay, so that's, Marty, you're seeing that as two different activities. And I wrote that as two different activities because I wasn't clear on, I knew that from what Michelle and Sarah and I discussed, that it will be it will be written into the strategic plan. But I didn't know if you were going to take that policy like you would a regular one and write a set of procedures. I don't think that's necessary. I think if we write everything into the strategic plan, that then the whole plan will be based on this policy. So I don't know.
And what you, and I need to hear from the board on that, but what you just referenced, Director Long, is exactly what I believe. I mean, I'm not sure we're gonna need a procedure for this policy, but the expectations of this policy will be carried out in the strategic plan, which becomes the procedure to enact this policy. And that is where, we'll bring many, many stakeholders to the table to create the goals of the school district for the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll, I guess we need to hear from Katie, and we need to hear from our student representatives. Lakin, do you have anything that you'd like to give us on this?
I think that it's a really good policy. I think that the changes that Director Kelly made make it a lot more impactful. When I first read it, it was very much sort of passive, but with the changes that have been there, I think it works to include everyone. And I think that, you know, the almost vagueness of it does help by allowing change in the future if there needs to be.
Yeah, I think any policy can be, I mean, we know this from just our daily work, can be amended. Policies can be changed. They can be done away with. It's all, that's a board decision. I tell you what, I'm really kind of surprised about. Um, Prior to this particular policy, WASDA has always um, given us models to go by, and I'm really surprised that they have not developed one. Cindy, do you know anything reason why they would not have gotten involved in this?
So WASDA right now is trying to do their own equity policy. When I was on the board, so has it been 4 years? We spent 2 whole days doing equity. But what happens on the WASDA board is that those board members change so often. And so kind of like any board, you've got to re-talk about it, you got to rehash it. And I know that the WASDA board right now is trying to go through and doing their own bias and understanding what equity means to each of them. So I was on an equity call on Monday as the chair of the nominating committee because they're going to hire a consultant. And I think, you know, they have posted equity policies, examples of what districts had done, but I think this is more of a local control. So, and why they're a state agency, I think they want districts to look at it from their own community and get the buy-in for it. So anyway,
Okay.
I'd like to address a couple things though. So when we did our strategic plan last time, we did have a consultant, but I would say that he didn't do a very good, thorough job. He went and got groups together, he put notes together, and he kind of did his own little thing. I was not happy with the result that we got. It was not like, as Sarah would say, the strategic plan we had done in prior years, because, and you know, as probably Marty can say, it's pretty taxing to do a strategic plan. It takes a lot of time, a lot of meetings, a lot of input. Well, I think that they're very important, but I guess as we move forward, it'll be interesting to see how the district decides we will be doing it this time.
Yeah, and I have a recommendation for the board to consider tonight based on what the strategic planning may look like. So near the end of the regular meeting agenda, I'll share that with the board for your consideration. No decisions tonight, just feedback to me as a superintendent. Is this gearing down the right path for you as far as the process we use to create our strategic plan?
Okay.
So did everybody have a chance to review Maisie Tucker's comments?
Where are they? Sarah?
In an email that was sent to us.
No.
I appreciate Maisie's comments. So now we just need to share the changes that have been made.
Jenny's going to try and put them up on the screen so
Okay, thank you.
so Sandy can look over them.
Thank you.
Okay, while we're waiting for that to come up, I can share that Maisie Tucker did just take first in league in diving. So we can all congratulate her when she does show up on a Zoom meeting. Oh, here we go.
That's okay. Oh, okay. I'm good now. I do want to comment on her section about changing mental disease to mental illness. That's a professional term. Yeah. Yeah, it's a professional term. If you walk into the behavioral health office, you'll, huh?
Okay, no, he said my mic wasn't on. So you're saying that mental illness is the correct,
Mental disease.
a mental disease.
And you will see in the literature, if you were to read it in psychology and psychiatry, that one of the things that helps to reduce the stigma of mental disease is the fact that it is a disease. So I would prefer we keep disease in there.
That's fine with me. And I imagine that when this all comes out, there's going to be 18 more things that we didn't even think about. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty exhaustive list, but
Now, we want to keep it as inclusive as possible because there are many reasons that people are treated in an inequitable reason in a school setting. And
absolutely.
each one of those things can cause that to happen. It's not just race, language, religion, and sexual orientation. It's much more than that. So that's the reason for being the list to be so inclusive.
Which I like. I also, the one I really liked in here was the calling out of a personal appearance, how you spoke to how
Personal
much
appearance
that
children
affects.
and grown-ups can torture children about the way they appear, physical appearance as well as dress and other things, which may have to do with their culture.
And
So
the only other thing she called out was when compared to their peers, which I kind of think maybe she's correct. So the sentence would read is, this is an important method of lessening opportunity gaps for students. That's how it would read, which then compared to their peers.
where are you, Cindy?
So that's like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 paragraph. Second page, second paragraph. Well, it probably depends on. Right there, second paragraph, that last sentence. The district will provide multiple pathways to success and high academic achievement to meet the needs of a diverse student population and community. This is an important method of lessening opportunity gaps for students.
Is someone crying? Oh, okay, okay. I just don't like to hear a child crying. Yes, you are. I bet you are.
Okay, I'm fine with that change for sure. I mean, it's just anything we can sort of make it more succinct is always good. So did you find that part, Sandy?
I think it's just calling people out. So, which you don't want to call people out.
I'm sorry, I'm not following you. This is an important method of lessening opportunity gaps for students when compared to their peers. Do you want to leave off when compared to their peers?
Right. Just full stop at it for students.
Okay, that's fine with me. But I don't know what calling people out means, Cindy, so help me there.
You're calling people out when you compare them to their peers.
I mean, is that a negative thing?
Yes, that's a negative thing.
Okay. Okay. Anything else? Anybody's liking? Jake? Anything else? Okay, well, good. That's good. I think this is a good start. And Sarah, thank you.
As time is allowed, do you want to dovetail into the strategic plan process and how that could include the equity strand?
Yeah, we totally can, but you're gonna have to go over it again during our, sorry, God,
Yes.
you're gonna have to go over it again in our actual board meeting. But yeah, sure, whatever you want to add.
I mean, we have a few minutes. I can just introduce it to the board. You haven't seen it quite yet, and then we can discuss it in further detail in the regular meeting if you want.
Sounds great to me. Everybody else okay with that?
I'll just give you a 30,000 foot view of what I'm going to recommend to the board.
Perfect.
Carmen, can you pull that up? The description first. So several months ago, we spoke as a board at the board retreat, and we spoke on that day around the four pillars that we wanted our strategic plan to address: teaching and learning, social emotional learning, equity, and facilities. I'm a part of an equity work group, statewide, nationwide, actually, through Hanover. And something was discussed a few weeks ago that really caught my attention. And it got me to thinking differently on how the strategic plan may need to look. I don't think it's going to be appropriate for us to look at equity as something else. And if we have an equity section of the strategic plan, I think we're missing the mark. This is just my opinion.
I agree.
Because equity needs to be embedded into everything that we do. And so this proposal tonight, not even a proposal, this draft that I'm sharing with you tonight outlines that. But so the way I see it is if you look under membership, we could have three pillars of the strategic plan: teaching and learning, which embeds equity, clearly embeds equity; social emotional learning, which clearly embeds equity in the work; and facilities, even facilities around the work of equity. And my recommendation tonight to the board would be that the board appoints 15 members of each of those groups. So 15 individuals that have a passion about teaching and learning, and which includes equity; social emotional learning, which includes equity, 15 members; and facilities, which includes equity as well. So that would be 45 individuals from across our district and community to engage in a process to determine the strategic plan for the next 3 to 5 years of the school district. If you scroll down just a little bit, Carmen, the duties of the strategic planning committee, the objective would be, establishing the framework to address a 3 to 5 year plan with goals and accountability, provide feedback to the board, actually present their strategic plan to the board. And then if you scroll down just a little further would be strategic plan to develop a timeline. So from April to July, we're still working on the equity policy, and we could identify and select the committee members. From August through December, we would have initial engagement in creating the plan. And then in January of 2022, we actually launched the plan. And scroll down just a little more, Carmen. I think that's maybe the bottom of the page. But how I think it's really important that we involve the board and, strategic planning processes that I've been a part of in previous districts. It's kind of by invitation, whether or not you want to be a part of the strategic planning process. I think it needs to be more inclusive than that. And so if you go to the actual application, so the application, and we've done this before as a board, and I think it's I think it's a really important work, is the board's involved in selecting that committee or those committees up to, and I'm just sharing numbers tonight, but up to 45 members across those 3 committees. But similar to how we handled the PACAC group, similar to how we handled the partners of the Lincoln Center, we could have an application process. So anybody in our community that has a passion in teaching and learning, social emotional learning, and or facilities could apply, and the board could evaluate all of the applications for those 3 subgroups and appoint a strategic planning committee. And if you scroll down a little further, we're asking individuals, so when they apply, they could, outline, I'm interested in a teaching and learning group. And then you answer 3 questions that the board would then use a rubric to evaluate who's going to be on that team. And personal history is one, prior experience working with committees and other organizations, and also a statement as to why you want to serve on the selected committee above, emphasize your work and commitment to equity and education. And so I really think, I want feedback from tonight based on, designing this concept. Does that bring a more inclusive group to the table rather than, just the superintendent or someone within a district selecting who's going to be on this team? And, in districts I've previously worked, you kind of select everybody that thinks alike. And this process could be very inclusive, could include anybody that has a passion for any of those 3 areas to help us build that plan with, equity in mind and this policy as the driving force behind much of the work. So again, not for decisions tonight, but this is just a draft that we put together that, sometime in the next week or so, I'd like feedback from the board so we can continue to craft this concept if this is the direction the board wants to go. So
Well, I'll just speak to, I really like that we're recognizing that equity is such a huge concept that having 3 separate groups tackling each one, because to tackle equity as a whole is just, I just do not know what's going to be the best here, but is too much. So I like that it's broken down. Do you envision that all 3 groups would eventually come together to share ideas and so they're not overlapping the same? Okay. There is overlap in all of these. It's not that.
If I could address that, yes, I think there's a time initially where, these 45 individuals or however many the board, wants to, assign to these groups, but you come together and you set the vision. And then I think the beauty of a plan like this is then those folks that have a passion for those areas spend their time vetting that area. Because what happens in a typical strategic planning process is you get a big group of 45 people together and you talk about everything, and everybody's got their own agenda and their own passion. And so this gives them the ability to really hone in, focus on teaching and learning and equity and education, and building a plan that is very very involved and very inclusive. So and then Sarah, as those work groups continue to work, obviously there have to be touch points to make sure that there's a check and balance and there's the appropriate layering between one pillar to the next pillar. And that would happen throughout the process and then at the end as well before the final recommendation would come to the board. But
So what would be your plan for disseminating this application?
you know,
And that can be an equity issue, right?
yeah, I think we'll need to talk about that, how we can reach out far and wide. We have our typical historical ways that we do that, but what feedback could we get to make that? I think social media is maybe a medium that we haven't hit on for applications of this nature. I know that the tribe would most certainly promote, a process, or would help us promote materials, and have done so in the past. So if board members have ideas on maybe where we could target a more inclusive like application pool, we would be more than willing to address that.
Marty, since I can't move this screen, will you go back and remind me of what the calendar is for this? What kind of commitment are these people, these 45 time-wise?
Yeah, we're really looking at, Carmen will pull it up, but if you look at August of 2021 through December of 2021, so a pretty intense, 4-month period of time to do this work.
And Marty, give me the timeline of the facilities committee timeline.
The PACAC, Cindy?
Yes.
The PACAC is currently meeting monthly, and they'll meet throughout the facility improvement process. So they'll be working for the next 5 to 6 years on that process to rebuild or to build Stevens Middle School.
And are there minutes being taken at those meetings?
Yes, there are.
So,
And Cindy, those will and have been put on Friday notes for the remaining board members to see.
thank you. So my only concerns is that we didn't get enough people to be on that committee that applied to fill all the spots, and something's changed since then. I'm just concerned we're going to be district staff heavy and not the community. I want to make sure that we're going to do OPMA and that the sessions will be recorded and posted. As we just talked about equity and we talk about that second paragraph, I just have some concerns about it, about the applying application part.
Well, I think the beauty of the application part is the board has full authority to appoint
I
who
cannot see this.
they see fit to serve on the committee. But I hear what you're saying is that it's important to get individuals to apply. Are you thinking, Director Kelly, that an application process will screen?
Yes, well, I mean, it does. I mean, let's just talk about people who have bias. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, my thing was closed. There's bias. I mean, there's bias with people. Yeah, if you made them fill out the application and put their name on it, that'd be great. But everybody has a bias. I just think that if we want a good strategic plan, we really need to open it up like we did several years ago. And I know it's a lot of work, but if you want buy-in to the school district and you want people to feel like if they're connected, and especially sometimes we don't listen to the kids, we don't listen to the students. And I just think that the students have a lot to give to us. And while we might listen to the leadership students, we don't listen to a lot of students that are disadvantaged, who don't have the voice and don't feel comfortable enough to speak out.
So what process then do you think we need that would get those kids? What's the solution to what your concerns are?
I guess I'd like to hear from our student reps to go back to their buildings and ask the students. Because I mean, I can go out and survey some students and tell you how they feel. But, you know, I'm just going to tell you, in the Native culture, it's not, you don't go speaking out. I mean, we have some elders who don't feel comfortable in our schools because they didn't have a great experience. So, and that's just one part of our community. But yeah, and I agree with Marty that everything that everybody's doing, equity has got to be embraced in everything you do. It's not something you call out. You've got to embed it in everything you do, and you have to always have that lens. Are we being respectful? Are we really doing the best we can?
No, I 100% agree with everything you're saying, but what I'm questioning is, we know the problems. We know that there are problems. What are our solutions? How do we get elders to feel comfortable? If the application isn't what we need to do, what do you see as what we need to do to reach those groups? Because I agree that they absolutely need to be reached.
Well, I think, Sarah, as you know, several years ago, when we did the strategic plan 3 times ago, I guess it was, we had a lot of meetings. We had people who could do surveys that were anonymous. I think you need to have some of that buy-in from the community who don't feel comfortable coming to meetings, or but I also think, I'd like to hear what Lincoln has to say about how do we involve the students.
I think it's really difficult to involve students if they aren't willing to speak out. You can't just say, okay, we're going to have you do this survey, because they aren't going to do the survey if they don't feel that it's something worth fighting for. But I think that equity is very much something that a lot of students feel strongly about changing, because it's very apparent. Like, whenever you go into a school, you can see that there are significant biases present, even though we fight against it. So I think that just by asking or saying, hey, here's a survey, or what do you think about this topic, a lot of people would speak out.
So I guess I would like to learn more about the strategic planning process that happened in the past, and how that was how it was viewed as maybe being inclusive, and how did you bring folks to the table in that process?
And Marty, a good person to tell you all that is Tina Smith O'Hare. She was here. She was very much embedded in that whole process. And yes, she will tell you it was a lot of work. But I think at the end of the day, I think we had a good product.
And you can also ask, Jane Prine was also the one leading us at that time. So you probably know where to find her now in Squim. She's turncoat. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so she also would be a resource for how that all happened. And I bet, honestly, that some people could go dig in the depths of the old district offices and still find the big old, remember, Cindy, we had those huge papers that had all those sticky notes all over them. Jane had said that we were going to keep those in perpetuity, so I don't know if you can find them down there in the basement.
And that's great for process, but how do you bring the right people to the table? That's
a good point. You're right. I hear that. That is not something we're just going to have to hit.
Marty, can you put your proposal in Friday notes? That'd be great.
the United Way pulled together focus groups all over this town, including children, everyone that they could find. Um, and they did produce a wonderful report, but that was not a planning document. Planning document has a focus, and the focus is to take care of these children in this school district. So um, I don't know. It's hard to get people to come to the table, number one, who really don't understand the strategic planning process itself. Just being in a group doesn't mean you have strategic planning skills. I do think that the interest is really important because it will motivate people who are interested in this kind of process to join up. Uh, I think we can certainly hit the major groups in this town among the this school board is very diverse, and I think that we can, and our administrative team's pretty diverse. So I think we can make sure that everyone gets a shot at doing this if they want to. I would not. I would say it's going to be hard to find 45 people who are interested in doing strategic planning for the school system, but we be may see something different than that. But yeah, Cindy, I think we've got to show diversity and choice, just like we have to model that, I guess is what I'm saying. So I think it's possible to do that.
Okay. I'll place this on Friday notes and we'll talk about it in the open public meeting as well. And continue to collect feedback from the board, and we have time now to develop the process that the board is comfortable that will be as inclusive as we can make the process.
Okay, with that, we're gonna leave the work session. We have about 3 minutes. About 3 minutes before we break into a regular session. And so we'll be back shortly.
Mic check. No feedback. And we're good.
Okay. So loud. Okay. I'm going to bring the Thursday, March 11th, 2021 Board of Directors meeting into order. Today's meeting is a Zoom meeting in person. Is that correct? So people on Zoom will be able to watch. It's going to be a little different. This is our first go back. So the word of the last year and a half has been grace. And so we ask for your grace as we do this. We're going to start out with, we've just come in from a Equity Policy Board work session. And now we're going to get an introduction to what a remote in-person board meeting is. And Carmen Geyer is going to help us with that.
Wonderful. Thank you, President Methner. Good evening. As the Port Angeles School District Board Meetings moderator, I would like to welcome you to the March 11th, 2021 Board of Directors Board Meeting. We are so excited to be able to offer this board meeting both in person and remotely via Zoom. Before we begin, items to be mentioned is that this meeting is open to the public and recorded. To attend in person, we are requiring all guests to follow the 5 safety protocols outlined as follows. All guests must sign in for contact tracing, wear a mask, practice 6 feet social distancing, fill out the attestation form and have your temperature checked. Thank you for your full compliance with these safety protocols to ensure we can continue in-person board meetings. If you have any comments that you would like shared with the Board of Directors, please email the Executive Assistant to the Superintendent, Jenny Wilson, at jwilson@portangelesschools.org. You can listen to all past board meetings by visiting Board Docs through our district website. There will also be a portion of the meeting reserved for community comments. The community comments portion of the agenda is an opportunity for the audience members to make statements to the board regarding non-agenda items. Agenda items will be addressed as listed on the agenda. If you wish to share comments remotely, please use the Q&A button located at the bottom of the Zoom conference window. Submit a brief summary of your non-agenda item or the correlating agenda item number along with your name and wait to be called on. When it is your turn to speak, your name will be called and your mic will be enabled. Before you make your comments, please state your name and address. You will have 3 minutes to speak, after which time your mic will be turned off. Video will not be enabled during the time. If you wish to share comments in person, please use the sign-up sheet for the agenda and 9 non-agenda items. When it is your turn to speak, your name will be called. Before making your comments, please state your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Accusations, foul language, other verbal abuse will not be tolerated. If you do so, you'll be asked to refrain from using such language. If you continue to use inappropriate language, your mic will be turned off. If you have any concerns about individual district employees or specific complaints that require an administrative response, please contact the superintendent's office directly. Thank you, and back to you, Madam President.
Yes, I'm gonna figure this out, I swear. Okay, so we got a roll call, and with the exception of Director Marks, who is otherwise occupied tonight, we have Director Kelly on the Zoom call, and the rest are here and present, which leads us to our flag salute. The flag is to the right here, on my right. And ready, begin. I pledge to the flag of the United States of America. Thank you. And now I'd like to ask Director Kelly to please give us our acknowledgement of tribal lands.
We acknowledge that we are on the indigenous lands of the Coast Salish peoples who reserve treaty rights to this land, specifically the Clown tribes. We thank these caregivers of this land who have lived and continue to live here since time immemorial.
All right, thank you. So next, I'm going to ask for agenda approval. How does that look to the rest of the board?
Great.
Thumbs up, looks good.
Good.
Okay.
Yep.
So that moves us on to 5.01, the consent agenda approval. The purpose of the consent agenda approval is to recognize matters that are of routine nature. So do I have a motion?
So moved by
moved.
Director Kelly.
Seconded by Dr. Long.
Moved by Kelly, seconded by Long. All in favor?
Aye.
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 It's unanimous. Thank you. Takes us down to board correspondence 6.01. Jenny, there's no board correspondence today, which we're just cooking right along. That's going to take us right into 7, which is awards, recognitions, and presentations. And we're going to welcome Steve Methner and Corey Delicott for a Dream Playground report. Turn it over to you, gentlemen.
Good evening. Can you hear and see me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Jenny, I may need to share my screen if that's okay. Have a brief presentation. I have to apologize for Corey. He was not able to make it tonight. Something hijacked him. So you're stuck with me. But we thought it would be a good idea to update the board and the district on what's happening at Erickson Playfields, because it does affect playfield space, and it also it's the largest community playground we have, and many of our early childhood education providers and a lot of the kids lots of the kids in the district, almost all of them, have used the Dream Playground at one point or another. So we thought we'd give you a brief update on what's happening there. The Dream Playground at Erickson Playfield, as you probably know, is directly across the street from Civic Field, and that's right on Race Street there. It was built in 2002 by about 1,500 volunteers all at once over the span of 6 days, and we dedicated it September 11th, 2002. And we chose that date purposefully as a statement that we will continue to build and look positive for the future. It served the community very well for the last 18 years, and it is made out of wood, though, and we do happen to live in the Pacific Northwest, and so you can do the math on what happens to a heavily used public playground. So a couple of years ago, we started the effort to redesign and rebuild the playground. As many public spaces are experiencing with the social issues that we have, it has a bit of a reputational decline in the area, and so we feel strongly that the best way to take back a public space is to put the public back in it. So our mission is to create the most awesome playground that you've ever seen, and that kids are going to want to drag their parents to play on the playground. So let me try to share my screen here if I can. I'll go. See, this is going to be a little weird because I've also got my Zoom screen on it here, but we'll just do our best. So this is the footprint of Erickson Playfield. The long, excuse me. Sarah, I blame your dogs. So the long roof line on the left there is the grandstand at Civic Field, and the tennis courts there to the south. So the Dream Playground is that footprint in the trees there. It's a 12,000 square foot facility, so it's pretty sizable. It's going to be completely rebuilt, and let's see here. There we go. And I won't spend the whole, I won't do the whole presentation because I know our time is limited here, but we do plan to do a community build again. We will have many people on site helping to build it together. We're planning to build it June 22nd through 29th. And of course, health protocol permitting. But it's looking at this point like we'll be able to go forward as long as we have a health plan in place. So we are about 90% of the way toward our fundraising goal of $525,000. We have about $471,000 raised at this point. I'll go through some of the slides here. Here's the here's the overall plan for it. Some of the awesome stuff that everybody on the board is going to want to do there's a 14-foot tall climbing net on the lower left there. You can kind of see how the kids look in there. And that big long thing in the back is a zip line. So there's going to be a 120-foot zip line. And if you remember the dragon mural that's in front of the playground now, we're going to take that, clean it up, rehabilitate it, and put it at the end of the zip line so you can zip into the dragon's mouth going forward here. So other things that we're planning to do, we want to make it a much more accessible facility for anybody who's on wheels. And we also want to make it more visible. So the whole play structure is elevated and does not have enclosed spaces designed into the understory of it like the current playground does. So parents will be able to see from one side of the playground to the other, regardless of which ages of kids they have playing there. And then law enforcement and other folks will be able to see better into the inside of the playground and make sure it's not there for any inappropriate uses. The play surface is probably the biggest thing that the community had been concerned about. We have a couple of play surface options. We're probably going to make a decision on one very soon here. And I'm pretty excited about what it's going to be. But the thing is just really cool. And I hope folks on the board have a couple of days in late June that you might come down and help us swing a hammer. Or help us with a lot of the other things that we're gonna need as a community to get this thing rebuilt. But it's got all the traditional stuff that you would expect, swings, monkey bars and things like that. But some of the stuff from the olden days is coming back. There's a seesaw. There is a merry-go-round, as well as some of the more modern features. That blue wagon wheel looking thing up there is called a hurricane spinner. And if you're a kid, you can just grab the edge of that thing and just start spinning around, feet in the air. So there's a lot of really sort of fun, sweaty stuff for kids to do at the playground as it's going to be rebuilt here. And just so you know where the idea for this came from, many of you might remember this, but we visited all 5 grade schools in May of 2019, actually, and collected ideas from every grade schooler in the district. And that's what informed the design of this next generation playground. And that's how we did it the first time as well. It came from the imaginations of our own school children here in Port Angeles. And it worked so well the first time that we're going to do it again. The status right now is we've got all the pickets down and it's about a third of the way demolished. The current playground is. If you do have a picket that has your name engraved on it, we have kept them all. And we'll be trying to get those back to people during the build week or earlier. Just to show you a couple of slides, this kind of puts it in more perspective. This thing's really big. So that's more in scale with what the kids are going to look like when they're on there. And that's the little kids area there and little play street. We have incorporated a lot more sort of educational and tactile stuff in this one. So there's more musical instruments. We'd also like to have like a Clallam language scavenger hunt. If we have words that we can put here and there on the playground, and you can do a scavenger hunt using the Clallam language, and a lot of artistic elements that we want to incorporate into the inside and the outside. And there's a central seating area that'll be paved with engraved pavers underneath where folks can sit and watch the kids play. This is a net where a kid can fall from the top to the bottom like a Plinko game and bounce safely off the really soft and wonderful play surface that's under it. And the zip line is a super cool part of this whole thing. That was my main demand. Has to have a zip line. So we've got a zip line in there. We're keeping the hand tiles that are there. Those are so well built, those kiosks, that those will last through multiple generations of playground on the site. So if you have kids or grandkids who have their feet or their hands there, they will be there for many, many years to come, and those are holding up very well. We're keeping the Dragon Slide mural, as I mentioned. I'll wrap this up fairly quickly here, since I know you've got a meeting to run. But this has been a really wonderful public-private partnership with the city. About 60% is funded from private donations and grants that we have gone after, and about 40% is from public funding sources, various sources. We have a lot of business and family sponsors at this point, and we are seeing more every couple of days, which is great. I think people are really enthusiastic about this, and this is going to do a wonderful sort of rehabilitation of one of our key childhood facilities in Port Angeles. And so we're really excited about the statement that it makes as it's reborn as a new Dream Playground. And as I mentioned, we hope to build in June, starting June 27th of this year. We're right at about 471,000 raised, which is about 90% of our goal. So we're getting close, but we have had some serious material shortages, but we've managed to struggle through those, and everything looks like it's on track at this point. We will have engraved pickets on it, just like we did on the last one. And those are, you can see those on our website. There we go. So any questions from the board for me?
Anyone? Okay, I know where to find you on the zip line.
Yep, I'll be on the zip line.
All right. And I
Not sure.
imagine Jacob's little cherub is going to be there before long.
Steve, I gotta say, you're building this 3 blocks from my house, man. This is gonna be perfect.
It's so great. It is gonna be so cool.
Yep, I'm gonna have a tent pitch there.
Wait, no, that's what we're discouraging.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Well, so that takes us through 7.01. Very excited about the playground. And now we get to get a report here from Carmen Geyer, is going to give us a communications and community relations coordinator report.
Great, thank you, President Mather. Yeah. All right, is that better? Can everyone hear me okay? Great, thank you so much. All right, while Jenny pulls that up, I just want to thank the board and the district team for hiring me to do this incredible job. I still can't believe I get paid to talk with people, celebrate student success, and connect with our amazing community. Over the last 2 months, I've met some of the most incredible people in our schools, and I'm so grateful I get to do this for a living. Each day, I learn more and more and feel very supported in my role. This is a true testament to the district staff for investing their time to help me on board. I'm here tonight to share what I've been up to these last 2 months. So started in January, so it feels like I've been here for a whole year. It's been 2 months, and it's been great. It's been a whirlwind, and we have an incredible team behind us. So here we go. And then if we can start at the beginning, here we go. Perfect, we're almost there. All right, next slide, please. So in January, as we all know, the Seattle Times came to visit. In my second week of my new job, I was able to help host the Seattle Times. Reporter Dahlia Bazaz and photographer Amanda Snyder visited Dry Creek Elementary for 2 whole days to capture our elementary return to school story that published in February. The Times and district staff then visited the Lower Elwha Clallam Tribes Learning Center And you should have seen the excitement in Dahlia's face. She felt like she stumbled upon a gold mine. She had no idea what she was going to experience when she was given a tour of the Learning Center. So she was so excited that she did a second story that just published this last week. And these stories truly captured all the hard work that it took to get these kids back in the classroom and the ongoing commitment to our students. The partnership with the Lower Elwha Clallam tribe has been key in supporting students during this time, and I am so excited to learn more about this ongoing relationship in our region. Newsletters. So I have been, every week, I get to publish a weekly staffly newsletter. So the staff newsletter has been a great way for me to get to know my coworkers both in and out of the office. We also use the staff newsletters to celebrate staff who go above and beyond to make our district such a special place to work. I also use the newsletter to communicate upcoming events and student success stories. And so parent newsletters. So each month I get to send out a parent newsletter chock full of school celebrations, graduations, awards, and more student stories. And we use this platform to share community news, events, and updates to keep our parents in the loop. And media partnerships. In the last 2 months, I've been able to send out 7 press releases and 6 have been published. So this is big. The KONP and the PDN have been such great partners here. Some release highlights include KONP recently published an article on our rising graduation rates, and Pepper Fisher interviewed Principal Jeff Clark on air to help us spread the word about this great success. And then the PDN helped us celebrate Director Dwayne Johnson's Athletic Director of the Year Award. They also helped promote the Rotary Interact homeless item drive, countless sports stories, and helped elevate our return to school plan. So big thanks to our local media partners for your support and partnership. And then next up, the more community partnerships, the Chamber of Commerce. So each month, the Chamber provides space in their newsletter for us to share upcoming events and district updates. So we're very grateful for this partnership and opportunity for promotion as well. And school tours and visits. So I've been fortunate enough to get out to most of our schools so far. And so thank you to the principals and staff who have provided tours and teachers who have invited me into their classrooms to share what their students are up to. I really look forward to continued progress of in-person learning and capturing more events on the horizon. Pictured here, you can see Assistant Superintendent Olson shooting some hoops with some students at Dry Creek. And then we have attestations of arrival of a middle school student in the middle there. And then on the right, that was percussion practice with the Port Angeles High School Band. So this has been really special for me to get out and about and see the students in action. Next up, website updates and our COVID dashboard. So I'm learning a lot about the ins and outs of our school district and our school websites. I work with each department to update documents, policies, banners, news updates, public notices, events, and calendars. So pretty much everything that's on our website, I get to update and touch and work with the different directors or the different departments on what they would like their websites to look like, the web pages. And I've also been working directly with school principals to update our weekly student attendance numbers for our COVID dashboard. So this is no easy feat. So what we do is we have to determine how many kids we're going to have in the classroom a week ahead of time in order to provide the most accurate information for the week ahead. And then social media. So I really like this quote: if you don't tell your story, someone else will. So we use social media to help with our community narrative and tell our story with transparency and integrity. So my goal is to post several times a week to inform, but also show that school can be fun and invite our community in on that fun. Our reach is growing and engagement is up. On the next slide, I have some data points here. So the number of times our page has been viewed in the last month is over 1,100. So that's up 44% in the last year. which is big, right? We're all remote and we want to know what's going on. So Facebook has really been key. The number of people who saw at least one post in the last month is 8,533. And that's up 38% in the last year. Post engagement. So this is number of times people engage with our post through reactions, comments, shares, and clicks. So that's 3,611, and that's up almost 60%. We average 25 new followers a month. That's up 136% from last year. So it's, and then on average, we have 20 likes per post, and we have over 2,900 followers on our Facebook page. And upcoming events. So here are some events I've been able to help co-organize on the horizon. So in partnership with Lutheran Community Services, we have the school supply fundraiser. This is our Shred event on April 17th. Funds raised from this event will buy much needed school supplies for our back to school fair in August. A big thank you to our sponsor, Steve Methner at State Farm, who is hosting the event at his office. Sound Community Bank, who will be on site to help volunteer, and the Port Angeles Kiwanis Club, who will also volunteer and help out. I'd like to give a shout out to the school district transportation staff for offering volunteers, as well as our amazing AmeriCorps volunteers. So whoever's going to be there, thank you so much. Then we have our Smile Mobile, which is coming to town March 23rd to the 26th. It'll be parked at Jefferson Elementary during that time. Smile Mobile dentist Paul Phillips and dental team will provide examinations to babies, children, youth, pregnant and postpartum women, and adult family members who have Apple Health coverage and who are uninsured. This program is implementing COVID-19 protocols to ensure families and the dental team are safe. So thank you, Principal Crom at Jefferson for hosting the Smile Mobile during this week, and for our students and community. So that is all that I had planned today. Again, thank you for giving me this opportunity to celebrate our district, and I look forward to continuing to update you on all the good things that everyone is up to.
Does anybody have any questions for Carmen?
I think you're doing a great job, Carmen. Thank you very much.
I'm glad you came on board.
All right, thank you. That takes us to recognition of Washington State School Retirees Appreciation Week, which I see several down here. That is going to be, excuse me. Is there the proclamation to be read? Jenny's going to put that up. And I believe, Lakin, you're going to read it for us.
Whereas the Washington State School Retirees Association, WSSRA, recognizes all retired school employees, and whereas the WSSRA educates and assists retirees in meeting special challenges retirement brings and works to improve their general welfare, and whereas the WSSRA aids in advancing education by supporting high educational standards, and whereas the WSSRA promotes group and individual involvement in charitable projects and activities, sponsors scholarships, and maintains interest and participation in educational and community activities. And whereas the WSSRA supports and encourages retired educators to remain active in the education profession through volunteer activities associated with learning. Now therefore, I.J. Inslee, Governor of Washington State, do hereby proclaim March 15th through 21st, 2021 as School Retirees Appreciation Week in Washington, and encourage all people in our state to join me with this special observance. Signed this 17th day of December, 2020.
Thank you. Thank you, Lakin. And as you know, we have certificates for you and we have our thank yous for you, but with all of the protocols, we're not doing the handshakes and the thank yous. But did you all have anything you wanted to share?
And one of the things is in Clallam County, our local little chapter gave $55,300 in scholarships and mini grants in Clallam County this past year, which is amazing. And we continue to collect books for First Step and for our county, and we have the books waiting until we can get them delivered. But we have probably around 800 books waiting to go out to the community as soon as we can. And we've worked through this pandemic and done a great job. So, and in fact, Gary Gleason, if you didn't see in the paper on Sunday, was awarded one of the Clallam County Community Service Awards. And he taught at Port Angeles High School and Stevens Middle School. This is Bev Brown. And she taught music at multiple schools, driving between the schools. And I taught marketing for 10 years up at the high school here. So we're thankful, and we continue to support our community. So thank you.
Well, I can only say thank you. You were integral to our children's growth while you worked, and you're continuing that, and we appreciate it. I believe Carmen has the certificate for you. And thank you so much for coming, and congratulations on your proclamation. Now you get to get your picture taken. Okay, and that brings us to, I think there's some people here, maybe, I don't know if I figured that, maybe a couple of youngsters out there. Recognize AmeriCorps Week. Marty's on his way there. So I believe that Michelle Gentry, are you going to come up and give us a...
I am, yes.
Welcome. Thank you all for coming out.
I think that our best course of action is to just have the AmeriCorps stand as I named them. As you can see, we have a huge group this year. Fantastic. We have 16 members from literally all over the country. So right now they're serving not just in our schools, but in other places in our community. At the beginning of the year, before we were back in person, we just went and found the kids. Where are the children? That's where we went. So Boys and Girls Club, our child cares, just random tutoring centers. So this team, more than any other team that I've ever had, has changed their mode of service almost weekly sometimes. Much like the teachers, the AmeriCorps have done that. So last spring, we were serving food. This year, we're really working on the tutoring, but that has looked like something different about every 2 weeks, right? Just along with everybody else, we're changing just like they are. So I'm going to start with, we have a half-year service, so we'll kind of go term service the longest. So Chrissy McCarthy joined us in January, and she came from Connecticut. I'm going to try to say where they all came from. I can't remember this year, but Chrissy is serving here at the high school, and then sometimes out at Juvenile and Family Services. So thank you, Chrissy. Anna Williamson, yay. Anna is serving with the CNC childcare, where they have sometimes upwards of 30-something kids. So every day, all day. Good job.
That's a hard one.
Nicole Westland, she is serving 2 places. So she's at Franklin a couple of days a week, and she's at the Boys and Girls Club. So thank you. Something about her, we interviewed and she needed to be here a week later. So she moved here got through all of the background clearance checks, all the rigmarole that we have to do in 1 week, which is almost unheard of. And she's been serving great. Thank you, Nicole. Kate Tom is here. Kate served for a long time with the Boys and Girls Club, and she is just now transitioning to kind of an ad hoc. We get all kinds of requests all the time for tutors. And so Kate is really helping out with that. And so she's at Dry Creek, she's at Jefferson, she's at the high school, she's at Lincoln, she's all over the place. So she's kind of our rover. Thanks, Kate. Lauren Sless, where's Lauren? Lauren is working with Anna at CNC, and they have become just a complete staple at that place. Not sure what those kids would be doing without Lauren and Anna. So thank you, Lauren. Kayla Porco. Kayla is serving at Roosevelt, and then she also helps out with the YMCA. So she's kind of been doing dual duty as well. And it was a great help as we were rolling out the evening tutoring. So right now we're doing evening tutoring from 4 to 6 at Roosevelt, Jefferson, and Dry Creek on consecutive days. And that's building.
Excellent.
And Kayla was a great help in getting some of that early stuff figured out. Cassie Morris. Cassie serves, I hope I get this right, at the House of Learning out at the Clallam Tribe. So she's with the elementary school students there, and then she comes over to Dry Creek to help with evening stuff. Thank you, Cassie. Erin Lamaskin. Erin is at the Learning Center out at the Clallam Tribe. And then also here at the high school, he's helping out on Wednesdays here at the high school. Thank you, Erin. Hannah Edstrom. There we go. Hannah is at Dry Creek, and then she, on weekends, has been doing some enrichment classes with outdoor education. So we've gotten some elementary school kids out to go out and learn which plants that they can eat and not eat. And by the way, licorice ferns do not taste like licorice.
Oh,
Our big learning there. So thank you, Hannah. Hadley Browning. Hadley serves at the YMCA site at Dry Creek. And she's never going to be able to leave because there is another little girl there named Hadley. And so Hadley and Hadley are joined at the hip, and that's going to just be it forever for you. So thank you, Hadley. We have Jonathan Arakawa. Jonathan he was at the Learning Center out at the tribe, but now he's back here at the high school now that we have students here. And he is vital in keeping contact with our Native American students. That is what he's here for. His job description is a little bit different, but he's just working all the time to keep our Native American students engaged here. So thank you, Jonathan. Oh, I also want to add that Jonathan has been bringing the Clallam language into our programming. Every chance that we get, we wrap it in there. So we're really looking forward to some stuff this summer when we're doing some enrichment things that we can include some of the Clallam language with that. So thank you, Jonathan. Jasmine Thomas. Where's Jazz? Jazz is here at the high school. This is her second year. By the way, it's Jonathan's second year as well, but Jazz is here at the high school. And I describe Jasmine, she's like a drip of water, right? She's really kind of mild-mannered, but she gets kids to do stuff like one droplet of water at a time. And somebody today said, "You mean like waterboarding?" They just don't know that they got that. Super effective up here. And it has been great with the rest of our team to help them get integrated with high school culture and life up here. So thank you, Jazz. And then we have Jesse Fox. So Jesse, this is Jesse's third year of service here. He served 2 years out at Roosevelt. And this year he's been instrumental as we reach out to our juvenile and family services. He's working with our community and engagement board, which works with students who are truant. He is really helping our program with community engagement. So he works with the Kiwanis Club and the Lions Club to help get kids out and get engaged with them. So also, just a quick note, Jesse just got engaged. So yay, Jesse. Yeah, there we go. And then I want to recognize Carrie Sanford. Oh, Levon. Levon. Oh, where's Gracie's name? Okay, Gracie, stand up. I'm gonna make her stand. Gracie is at the Boys and Girls Club, and she's there full time. And I keep having to remind them that in our MOU, they cannot hire her until she's done with her term of service. Every time I walk in, they're like, "Can we hire her yet?" No, not yet. And then Levon. Levon is also in his second year of service, and he is at Jefferson now. He was Boys and Girls Club for a bit, and now he's at Jefferson. So thank you, Levon. Just my inability to read. Okay, and now Carrie. Carrie is the program assistant for AmeriCorps. She handles so many of the day-to-day kind of things. She keeps track of timesheets. She keeps track of me. She fills in for different things. She runs things around, and she just helps out with general team support. And we just could not do it without Carrie. So thank you, Carrie. So that is our team. As you can see, we're serving in lots of different locations. We've really increased some partnerships this year, which is important for our program and for the community. And I'm just so proud of this team and their ability to really roll with it as we make changes. And I mean, look at them. Look at them. They're so great. So any questions or thoughts?
I'm just going to say more quietly, apologize. A few years ago, we lost our AmeriCorps. Something had happened and we didn't have you for a year, and it nearly brought this district to its knees. That's how vital you all are to the Port Angeles School District and really to the whole community. And I hope you all understand what you're doing is amazing and you're so appreciated. I know you probably hear it a lot, but I'm just gonna try and reinforce that. Really, we can move forward because we have so much help from all of you. And in this time right now with the pandemic being so horrible, you really have given us a level of support that we have needed to keep going forward. So I'm going to say thank you, and I'm sure other board members have something to say.
It's wonderful to see all of you together. We just kind of see you here, there, and yonder. What a group. I just can't tell you how much we thank you and appreciate what you do for our children. If you think about them not being here, I mean, what a huge hole that would leave, a gap in our students' learning. Particularly your tutoring is so important, and also just your encouragement. I see you as friendly figures to the students, and I feel like probably a lot of them will come to you before they'll come to other adults. So for that also, I thank you.
All right, thank you, board, for your support. And team, I have certificates for you, but we'll do those a little bit later.
Marty, did you have something you wanted to add, or you're good?
Yes, I do. So I agree with all the comments from the board members. This year in particular, our AmeriCorps team has been so vital to our delivery model. When we turned on a dime and went to distance learning, we had to adopt a philosophy to move beyond the four walls of a school. And this team has executed that to a phenomenal level. And so I am very appreciative of your efforts this year. All of the work you've done both in our schools and beyond our schools is so vital and critical to the success of our students this year. So for that, I am very grateful. I also do not want to forget, and Michelle Gentry, everybody's been introduced and rightfully so, but Michelle, without a leader leading that work and navigating every 2 weeks, it just doesn't happen. So Michelle, thank you very much for your flexibility this year and your commitment. And, you know, this program is, you know, a phenomenal program that is, you know, something that's here to stay, and we are committed to you just as you are committed to us.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Well, I guess we'll move on now to the more, I don't know what the word is, but yeah, you all probably will take a brief recess while you all get home because I know you've got a lot of work to do tomorrow with our little cherubs. And good night. Thank you, really, all. So that's going to call us up to 8.01, a teaching and learning report from Michelle Olson. And I haven't seen Michelle.
I'm very happy to report that this is not something that I thought we were going to get to this year, but Michelle Olson is at a senior night for her daughter's volleyball game.
Oh,
So, and there was, if you think back to last fall, there was some, you know, we were uncertain that that would happen. In fact, I remember Director Wright referencing if we have a season, the very first game should be senior night. And so it's a big night for seniors and for, you know, our sports program and the community in as a whole.
and the
So,
mommies.
yeah. And so Michelle Olson is not here this evening, but she has completed her task for a report. It is a video report this evening. And so Jenny's going to start that for her report this evening.
So to people who are watching on Zoom, I just want to share that we're having a little tiny bit of technical difficulty, and we have plenty of people working on it. So go have a bowl of ice cream or something. I don't know.
Hello, test.
The work, I'm having fun. A lot of different things going on, so could share a lot more, but a lot going on. So having fun doing the work, I'm having fun. There's a lot of different things going on. Could share a lot more, but
Okay, so we can't seem to get that resolved. So it is going to be given to the board on Friday notes, and I imagine it will also be included in the meeting. How would the populace see it?
Can we just bring it back the next meeting?
Yes, we can do that.
Okay. Okay, so that is going to take us on to the Human Resources Report. I believe I see Mr. Harker on his way down. Scott, you're up.
Beauty. All right, good evening, folks. So public records this quarter has been kind of an average an amount. So since the beginning of the year, we have had 7 public records requests. But in addition to that, we've also had 8 discovery requests, which are similar to public record, but for a different purpose. And so what Alita, my assistant, and I have been doing in addition to fulfilling those is getting some training. And so we have attended training on case law, legal updates, and records retention. And so one of the big things that we needed to do in public records is to look at our retention records. And so we've been working on that. So anyway, kind of a short report tonight. Any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, so now we're going to move into our action items. And so we'll just go approval of the first reading of policy 2022, which is electronic resources and internet safety.
I move to approve the first reading of policy 2022.
It's been moved and seconded, which opens it for discussion. Anybody have any discussion? I have some questions slash corrections, perhaps. If you go into electronic resources and you go to the second paragraph, under bullet point 2, it says, provide appropriate staff members to development opportunities regarding this policy. And I know that I'm just a old school teacher, but that doesn't make any sense. So I need something to make better sense before I'm going to be able to move that forward. Because at this, how it's written is that we're going to give staff 2 opportunities. I don't think opportunities can have staff. So, and the only other question I had is under the first paragraph of electronic resources where it says, and to take ownership of their lives. That whole last sentence, I don't know what, it just seems like we're saying a lot of words that don't necessarily really mean much. And I don't know if it's just coming straight from WASDA or if it's something we added, but I don't know how a computer or my phone allows me to take ownership of my life. I just don't like that wording. So I guess those are my 2 comments.
Jenny, can you pull the policy up?
And really quick, if since we're approving the first reading, do we just approve it and then you send those changes on to the second reading, or do we pause it?
We can do that. I just literally don't understand what that sentence means. So I guess I'd want to see what that sentence means before I approve it. I mean, we can pass it and then bring it back with those corrections, but those are the ones, and I have this for Jenny for you all to take back to, I don't know if it goes back to policy committee or just Jenny and Marty and Cindy look over and figure out what that was supposed to say.
Yeah, my recommendation.
Yeah, I was just unclear about that process.
Yeah, my recommendation is for the first reading this evening, if the board agrees to those 2 changes, let's make those edits tonight. We'll document that, bring it back for the next reading. So the 2 items that President Methner has referenced is the last part of the sentence for paragraph 1, and take ownership of their lives. I guess my request is, what would you like to change that to, or just delete?
I would like it just deleted because it seems like mumbo jumbo to me. It doesn't serve a purpose in my opinion in that sentence.
Should we pull that? Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm not asking to pull it. Give us the suggested edits and have the board approve that so that we can bring it back in a second reading next month.
Okay, to think and solve problems and to manage their work. Full stop. That is my suggestion. Now you all might have something different.
No, that sounds good to me.
And then the second edit under number 2, provide appropriate staff members to development opportunities regarding this policy. I honestly tried to figure out what that meant. Is it for professional development, or I just didn't know what it actually was going to say because it doesn't make sense. You think professional development? No.
Cindy, do you have, I wasn't at that policy committee meeting. Cindy, do you have?
I don't have the hard copies. They're still at the district office, and we do most of that through Google Drive. So unless I have a printout copy of it, I can't look at it. Or go into Google Drive and look at the whole paragraph and the edits that were done. I agree with you, Marty. We just bring it back, and then I'll look at it. Sarah can give those changes to Jenny, and Jenny and I can go over it. And you, Marty.
Okay, and I'm just gonna say, I don't know how to change it because I don't know what was trying to be said. So. Okay.
Is there consensus that those amendments would be accepted by the board?
Yeah.
Yes.
Me, yeah.
Okay.
So we can vote to accept policy 2022 with edits as a first read. All in favor of that?
Aye.
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 Okay. So there we go. Then we'll move on. I'm apparently going to be that person tonight. Okay. We're on to approval of retirement of policy 2100.
Director Wright moves to approve policy 2100.
It's actually the retirement of policy 2100.
Retirement of policy 2100.
Right, thank you.
20 seconds.
It's moved and seconded. Does anybody have any discussion? No discussion?
So
All right,
Sarah,
I'll-
as we get retired this, we have some other policies that we're gonna have to redo because it's instructional program offerings. So,
Mhm.
but the policy committee's on that.
Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so that's unanimous. Which takes us to approval of the first reading of policy 2020.
Director
Director
Kelly
Wright
moves to approve policy 2020 first reading.
Director Wright seconds.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any comment, any discussion? No? Okay. So all in favor, say aye.
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 So that's unanimous. Which moves us to 10.04, approval of the retirement of policy 4230.
I moved policy 4230.
Director Wright seconds.
Been moved and seconded. Any conversation, any discussion? No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous as well, which takes us to the approval of the first reading of policy 1400, meeting conduct, order of
Skip
business.
one.
And excuse me?
You skipped one.
I did. I thought I was getting this. Which one?
10.05.
10.05, approval of first reading of policy 2106, which is program compliance. Apologize. Do I have a motion?
Director
So
Kelly moves it.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded by Director Kelly moved it and Sandy, Dr. Long seconded. Okay, so this is program compliance. Is there any conversation around that? Discussion? Okay, moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, it's unanimous. Now I'm going to policy 1400, meeting conduct, order of business and quorum.
Director Wright moves to approve policy 1400.
Second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
The only thing that I want to discuss is, we received an email regarding some suggestions. And I think it's just very confusing to the public when they can sign up for, and I know years and years and years ago, we used to do a better job of them being able to sign up for or acknowledging action items versus public comments. So I know a lot of agencies do public comments at the beginning and at the end, and I know that previous board members wanted to do them at the end so that people would stay. But I think in the climate that we're in, it would really be great to have it before, at the beginning of the meeting, public comment, and at the end, public comment, due to parents and people just having to help their students with homework, plus working, plus trying to do all of the other things at home.
Okay, I don't actually feel that we need to have that many different opportunities for public to speak. Remember, these are the board's meetings, then we allow the public to comment. I think that one public comment period, in fact, that was my only edit, was I would like to take out the first sentence in the last paragraph, that the period at the beginning of the meeting. I feel like that's something that each board can probably come up with when they want to hear public comment. Public comment is always available during these action items. People can sign up to speak to agenda items, but for the just open public comment, I feel like I don't want us to be set into having it at the beginning of the meeting. I would prefer us to have our meeting and have it as it is now. The rest of the board, anybody have opinions on that?
I feel kind of conflicted about this because I've been in those meetings where public comments went on in the middle of a board meeting, and it really was confusing. And I think the meeting is here for us to meet, and then when we finish our business, if people want to comment, then I think that's when they should comment. I don't have the policy in front of me, so I can't
Can you pull it
see
up, Jenny?
Oh, the last paragraph in the policy.
So this, can I speak about that?
Please.
Please do.
This policy went through the policy committee and was discussed. And I believe you have two natural ways for the public to comment in an open public meeting. There is the community comment section, and then the public is always welcome to comment on action items. So you have, two opportunities. And our policy was written, and the policy committee did remove in, if you can scroll, Carmen, can you scroll down a little further? Keep going. Okay, so what, right here, the second paragraph under public attendance and comment, there was a language in there that referenced the beginning of the meeting, and that was removed to just, we would provide public comment. And I think that would give the board some flexibility for times like now, where if you want to have public comment at the beginning of the meeting, you're welcome to do that, because it was referenced at the beginning only. Or if you want it at the end, or if you want it in the middle, that's, the discretion of the board. And so my recommendation would be to strike the beginning, strike the end, and just make public comment an option within your policy, and then you choose where to place that. But again, I think you have two natural places where public can comment: your action items and open or on non-agenda items.
So my question would be, then we are not asking before we vote on it if we have any public comments before every action item.
We do have a sign-in sheet when folks do come to the public meetings, and if they want to comment on, we have two sign-in sheets, one on non-agenda items, the other on agenda items.
Marty, do I understand that correctly, that if someone were to sign up to speak to one of our agenda items, they would be allowed to speak prior to our vote?
The board protocol in the past has allowed that, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. When we have somebody sign up that they want to speak to agenda items, we'll call the agenda item. And at that point, we can get the presentation, and then I apologize for that, but and then at that point Jenny would tell us we have public comment on this.
Okay.
Before, and my recommendation to the board is before the vote. Absolutely.
Absolutely before the vote. It has to be before the vote, in my opinion. So what I guess the protocol going forward, it would be, I guess we vote on an amended. Do you want me to just amend this? It's a first reading. So
well, the policy committee worked through that, and they removed the beginning in the second paragraph. And Carmen, if you can scroll down, and I think what Sarah is referencing, or what President Methner is, keep scrolling, please. The last paragraph.
Last paragraph.
Yeah, so what was missed in the policy committee is, in addition to public comment period at the beginning of the meeting, we missed that one.
And that's just moot because you'd already said that you'd already removed a public comment meeting at the beginning, or
So
calling it out at the beginning.
Yeah, so the policy committee removed beginning above, and I would recommend, if this is the direction of the board, strike the beginning there, so you have the flexibility to place community comments where you like.
That is what I would like to do. So
Are we gonna do that differently every meeting?
I doubt that it would be different at every meeting, Cindy. I think it probably will just continue in the form that it currently is. But if we have something special, we're giving ourselves the flexibility if we would like to have it at a different time. Without that, we'd have no flexibility.
Say it again.
Okay, Jenny, is this the original one? This is not the marked up one, right?
This is the original. No, I'm sorry. This is the one that went to the policy committee.
So what do we need to do?
That's my question. Do you want an amended motion? Or
I
do
just think
we?
it's easier to look at it when you look at the markup ones that with the policy committee looks at and reviews and.
Superintendent Brewer is correct that that beginning was missed in the last paragraph.
I don't think the policy committee had a conversation about that.
Do we need to send this back to the policy committee?
No, I think the board can change what they want to. If Sarah wants to take it out, you just take it out.
Okay, so then I'm gonna, I guess, so Cindy, you don't want an official motion to remove that sentence?
No, this is first reading. You don't have to.
Okay, great.
Just
So
like you did the other one.
my recommendation is that we remove that particular part of that sentence.
Okay.
And so I'm gonna call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Me.
Okay, so that's handled. Then we're going to go on to the next order is, let me see, where are we? I'm getting confused. Okay. First reading of policy 2405, which is social studies. Do I have a motion?
It is.
I move first reading of policy 2405.
Director Wright seconds.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, and I need discussion. Any discussion? Shockingly enough, I do have discussion on this one. I just have a question. Well, I have two purposes here. The first is when it says grades 1 through 6, a one semester course, i.e. 90, and then in parentheses, 50-minute hours of instruction. What does that mean? Is it 90 minutes of instruction? Is it 50 minutes of instruction? I'm not sure what that means.
Ninety of 50-minute meetings.
There would be 90 hours in 50-minute increments.
So
Okay.
The full need is the 90 hours.
Okay. And then I just, as I read through this, it's a good policy, but it seems that the scope of the policy doesn't cover all of social studies. It really seems that this policy is referring to tribal literacy, including tribal literacy into our Washington State history, but it doesn't talk about any other, it doesn't really cover anything else about other, certainly the state requires more than 90 hours of instruction in social studies. I feel like the scope of this is a very narrow scope of social studies. If I read this as a parent, that this is all that they get for social studies, it says nothing about U.S. history. It talks about Washington State history. It talks about some about government, but it's very narrow. I would like to see if there's another social studies policy too, because this one seems far too.
So Sarah, we took it out of the WAC. It comes right out directly out of the WAC. And so the policy that we got rid of, the instructional programs offering, this is what we incorporated into all this whole thing. So STI is a requirement now. Legislation happened a year or two ago.
Oh, 100%. And I agree with that. That is 100% vital. What I'm saying, I'm not arguing with any of that. What I'm saying is I feel like our social studies programs are much broader than just what this particular policy is calling out.
Then I would make the recommendation, we take it back to the policy committee.
Okay.
I agree with that.
You agree with that? Am I making myself clear what I'm concerned about?
Yeah.
Because I definitely think that the STI curriculum is worthy of its own policy. I'm not saying that it's not. We definitely want to call out that we require instruction in that. But the state must have other requirements as far as civics education goes.
And the policy committee can look at that.
Okay, that'd be great then. So I'm going to table this to send it back to the policy committee. Okay?
You need Jacob and Sandy to
Oh,
resend.
yes. Would you all rescind?
Yes.
I do.
I do.
They both do. Okay.
I think that's a very good idea.
All right. So then that takes us to 10.08, which is health and fitness. And do I have a motion on this policy?
Director Wright moves to approve the first reading of policy 2407.
I'll second.
So it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay. Shockingly, I also have more things. My question is, A, is every pupil attending grades 1 through 8 of the public school receive instruction in physical education? That's great. And then it has provided that students will be excused on account of physical disability, great, religious belief, great, or participation in directed athletics. I don't believe that they have directed athletics in grades 1 through 8. However, that directed athletics is not it's not included in C, which is the students in grades 9 through 12 will be required to complete 2 credits of physical education course or an equivalent course. And it says nothing about directed athletics. I think that participation in directed athletics actually belongs in C. We went through this all last year. So I think that was just something got pasted in the wrong spot. So I guess that's all the only change I would like to fix that. But with that, I'm happy to pass this on through. If anybody else has any conversation.
I would just want to make sure, Sarah, that it's in the RCW or the WAC. So I would suggest having that change done and sending it back to the policy committee.
We could do that. We have the actual, remember we worked all year last year on getting this directed athletics as solving or meeting the WACs. You remember all that last year? Okay, well, I guess we'll send that back to policy committee as well.
Yeah, that's fine by me.
Okay. That is, yes, that is apparently what is requested, that we send that back to policy. So then with that,
Sarah,
yes.
Sarah, you need to resend the motions again.
They did. I'm sorry, you can't see. This is the problem with the Zoom meeting. I apologize. It's hard.
Sending it back.
They've sent it. They've agreed to that. Okay. So we're through our policies, and I'm sorry that I was sort of dominating tonight on that. So now we're going to move on to community comments, and I believe I see that Superintendent Brewer has some. So I am going to call Lindsay Schroman Warren up to the podium. Again, the same, you heard the rules at the beginning, but I'll just reiterate 3 minutes. And if you could start with your address.
You don't need to run. We're not going anywhere.
No, we are not.
Wait a minute, we can't hear you.
Thanks. Hi, Lindsay Sherman Warren in Port Angeles. I wanted to share with the school some work that I've been involved with, along with folks from Juvenile Services and the Prosecutor's Office, looking at data from the Office of Juvenile Justice. And I apologize if I've mentioned this before, but I think it'd be valuable to update too. And what that data shows is that in Clallam County, Black youth are 5.5 times as likely as white youth to be referred to juvenile court and 10 times as likely to be adjudicated in juvenile court, which is found guilty, so to speak. So those are huge disparities. There is a situation where there's a student, well, a youth who's an outlier who was involved in multiple cases, but even if you take that person out of that data set, it's still 3.4 times as likely to be referred to juvenile court. And those rates are higher than for Native students in our county. So in talking with the prosecutor's office and juvenile services, it's very clear that this is a larger systemic issue. And to share, one of the earlier juvenile justice reports, they point out some of the disparities and the systemicness of them. And they say that it is becoming increasingly clear that juvenile courts will not be able to reduce disparities through court processes alone. As outlined in the recommendations, more vigorous attempts to eliminate racial and ethnic disparities will require a community-wide effort to both prevent and intervene with juvenile cases outside of formal court proceedings. So I want to say thank you to this group for the school district for working on the equity policy. It's not easy, and we need it. I mean, we have clear disparities in our community that need to be addressed, that are going to take all of us working together, as the Office of Juvenile Justice says, in a community-wide effort. So I look forward to working with the school district on addressing those disparities, and hopefully we get those kinds of numbers down to 1, so there's not a racial disparity. But even more important, we continue the long-term trend of fewer students, fewer young people going to juvenile court in the first place, which is a trend that we've been seeing over the last several years. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So our next speaker is Carolyn, I'm sorry, is it Wilcox?
Yeah.
Okay, Carolyn Wilcox.
Hello, my name is Carolyn Wilcox, and I'm a city resident, member of the Port Angeles Racial Justice Collective and the school district equity team. I hope that we can address the board in a public comment period at the start of the board meeting and also during work sessions that relate to diversity, equity, and inclusion. With regard to the equity policy under the evidence of the need for equity, I just wanted you to consider changing 2 statements to the present tense, which kind of follows up on what Lindsay was saying. So the district acknowledges complex societal, current, and historical factors can contribute to inequities within the school system. So to add current as well as historical. And the district recognizes that in current and past instances, diversity has not been recognized as a systemic strength. The Port Angeles School District currently does not have a diverse workforce that mirrors the student body and community. And the Port Angeles School District currently does not have a culturally responsive communication system in all instances that I have observed. So I would just consider that as possible evidence to suggest that you should consider using the word current in the policy. Both of these points are mentioned in the equity policy and are current issues. Deb Holland is the first Native American in the cabinet. She communicates by introducing who she is, by acknowledging her family connections, and did it in her language of her ancestors, and makes a land acknowledgement, which I'm very happy that we have Cindy to do that for the board meetings. And this is not necessarily, though, how the Port Angeles School District communicates in its introductions in all meetings, and is a good example of culturally responsive communication systems. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And if you have those edits that you want considered, if you could give those to Jenny over here, that's always helpful when we have the written documents. Okay, so with that and no further public comments, we're going to move on to Board of Directors comments. So let's start just to my right here, Director Long, you would like to start?
Yeah, I'll be glad to. We had a really nice tour of the high school last week. It was so good to see all the kids back in school. They seem to be very effectively engaged in learning. And I want to thank the staff for always being so generous and taking us around. Other than that, the Ed Foundation will be meeting tomorrow. I missed their last meeting, sorry to say, but they'll be meeting again. No, I mean, sorry, not tomorrow, next Tuesday. So I'll have that to report on next time, President Methner.
Mike,
I'm going to pass this evening.
Okay. So Director Kelly.
I attended the DNR Encumbered Lands meeting. I attended a policy meeting, the WASDA COVID weekly meetings, and you should have got those notes today. The WASDA Trust Lands Communications Subcommittee meeting, where we're talking about how we're going to kind of promote the Trust Lands Committee and get more. We know that every 2 years we need to educate new school board directors about that. I was invited to the STI curriculum meeting that happened last Friday. On Monday, I did the WASDA equity meeting with some WASDA board members and other chairs from other committees through WASDA. I attended the WASDA nominating committee meeting where I was reelected the chair. I attended the WASDA government to government task force meeting, and we are moving things along, and we should have the consultation video out probably by, I would say, the first week in April. And we are redesigning, you'll see probably the middle of, maybe at the end of this month, we will have the new government to government resource page on the WASDA website. So, and that's what I've done.
Thank you. So I guess Director Marks isn't here, so that puts me up. Done the same as Sandy here, went to the high school. We did the agenda review and things. Also, I've had a good time getting to be a dive judge for the swim team, because I actually, strangely enough, qualified to be a judge, and that's been fabulous. And I'll just shout out again officially to our other student rep, Maisie Tucker, who won the league meet tonight, which I obviously did not judge tonight. The other thing, the big thing that I guess I did was the PACAC meeting. And Marty, do you want me to cover a little bit of what we talked about there? Okay, so we really are getting started on some of our early plans. You know, in our levy materials, when we said we were going to provide safety vestibules. Some of our earliest goals were to provide safety vestibules at all of our elementary schools, and those have now been completed, which is a huge step towards safety. And we did what we said we would, and they're beautiful. The other thing that we started to talk about were the updating the Monroe area to provide some fields for folks on the east side of town. And Nolan brought us some ideas about what that would look like, maybe 2 fields. But then apparently his wife suggested that maybe we want to do one really nice field. And what that would do is it would make it so we wouldn't have to relocate the portable that is out there, because that portable, moving it would cost the district about $100,000, which is a enormous amount of money. But it's something that could be used as a, because it's tricked out. It's got all of your bells and whistles of plumbing already, and eating space and things like that. So what was suggested is perhaps we keep that, maybe even use it as a concession area, and take the rest of that money that we're saving and turn it into one really, really nice field. Maybe even if we have enough money left over to put lights out there too. Just going to give the other side of town access to something, as we're losing fields at Erickson this with the playground that we just heard about, those the pump track, this bicycle pump track is going in that little field across from the Y at Erickson there by the Dream Playground, which is going to take away all of our fields for our youngest, our little kindergartners. Use those fields for t-ball and for soccer. So putting another field on the east side of town, I got confused for a minute, would really offer our families on this side, on that side, some more options, and for our students some more options. So that is sort of where I think that consensus sort of led to, was that maybe we're going to look into doing one larger field that can accommodate soccer, and little itty bitty kids doing their different things. So did I get about all the things? And you all are getting access to those meeting notes, which I think are also going to be on the website, for the community to keep in touch with what's going on with their levy dollars. And that is about all I've been up to, which takes us to, Lakin, I am so sorry. I even have sat here and looked right at you and just, please, Lakin.
Thank you. So at Lincoln High School, there's been a lot going on. We have been preparing for the next quarter, and, with going back to school, I know that's been the hot button issue, or the topic, I guess. You can definitely see an increase in morale between students, and you can see that it's gave a significant improvement in the overall engagement and learning. Those you can definitely tell just by going in. One last thing that I'd like to say is that the Port Angeles Education Foundation has funded the beautification of Lincoln's campus, and namely they've put in some benches and picnic tables so that people can come in and sit down and congregate within the guidelines that have been set. And we are all immensely thankful for that.
Thank you. That sounds very exciting. That's Dr. Long and my plan is to hit Lincoln next week. So you'll have to show us. In fact, it would be wonderful if you told us when you might be there and you could sort of be our tour guide along with Principal Gratz. Now I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent.
Thank you very much. I want to reiterate how proud I am of this community and our school system. Each week, OSBI puts out a report on number of students across the state of Washington receiving in-person learning. And as we know, in Port Angeles, 100% of those students that choose to return to school to in-person learning are there. The statewide average right now is 39% of students across the state of Washington attending in-person learning. So we can't continue to tell that story enough. I know the frustration in our community. I mean, we've been at this pandemic now for a year plus, and it's frustrating to say the least, and we all want to go back to some sense of normal. But we have to keep things in perspective based on the regulations that we have and the barriers that we have. We've made good progress. Now we're not done, and we'll continue to work towards creative solutions to bring back more time to students. That's the commitment that we give to our community. The second item that I wanted to discuss this evening is vaccinations. I want to again reiterate my appreciation for the county health department, in particular, Dr. Berry, the Known Clinic, Dr. Mike Maxwell, OMC, both tribes in the local area, the Jamestown tribe and Lower Elwha tribe, in their efforts to bring vaccinations to our educators. And it was last Tuesday night that we were planning on executing vaccinations this weekend based on the rollout by Governor Jay Inslee. And so, no kidding, Dr. Berry had sent an email 10 minutes before Governor Inslee had announced that, because of President Biden's directive to vaccinate educators, that he was releasing that or allowing that vaccination plan to take effect. And within 10 minutes of that announcement and communication between Dr. Berry and myself, she turned on a dime and made it possible for educators to be vaccinated last weekend by registering themselves as a healthcare worker in the system that had not been planned. And so again, like our county, from the tribes to the healthcare professionals have been advocates for educators, and I'm very, very appreciative of that. And today we had an opportunity for educators that are maybe they might choose to get vaccinated. Dr. Mike Maxwell donated an hour of his time to share, the science about vaccinations and answer questions from staff. That was a collaborative effort. We had a lot of Port Angeles staff there, but we invited the Quileute Valley School District to attend, Crescent and Sequim. And so that was fairly well attended. We had 16 to 20 individuals there. And I think it was a little more than that, 20 plus. And so again, thank you to Dr. Maxwell for doing that of the Known Clinic. This week, as I hope you've already seen, the Lower Alwa Klallam Tribe was featured in the Seattle Times as the second article in that series. Outstanding. It was a very well done article, and I'm very happy for the tribe. They so much deserve that recognition for the wonderful work they've done this year in partnership and supporting their tribal members. And finally, tonight has, we practice grace and forgiveness. And tonight is an experiment. There's not many districts trying to do an in-person board meeting. The challenges, and I want the community to hear this, is, we simply can't do an in-person meeting without having a virtual backbone to it. And so, it took a lot of work today to set this up. It hasn't been perfect by any means, but it got us in person. And so we'll continue to learn from that. But I have a list of folks to thank for carrying this out. I want to thank, Jared and Tech Department for coming out. And, in these individuals that I'm going to announce today, they spent 2+ hours today trying to make all this work. And Nolan was here helping with the logistics from the management side. Jenny was here and helping to set up, and Carmen doing her work. Jeff Clark was here, and he's here all night tonight to help us with the sound. And Mace Gratz was here as well. Am I missing anybody? I think that's, but that team came together and put together the backbone of trying this. Just as with the pandemic, there's no game plan to make this work. There's a lot of restrictions on some things that we have to do in order to make this legal by way of OMPA. And I want to thank our team for doing that and taking, again, that leap of faith to try to make something that, we've never done before try to work. So with grace and forgiveness, and it wasn't perfect by any means, but it's progress in the right direction. It brings us a little closer to normal. So with that, I'll answer any questions you might have.
Is there a way that we're going to track, or do we need to, how many teachers decide to be vaccinated?
No, we're not tracking that.
Okay.
Nor can we. Yep.
That would be a HIPAA violation.
Yes.
Yes.
The initial, we did an anonymous survey about a month ago, and the response was about 72% yes. And that was all staff.
They indicated that they wanted to.
That is correct. And then we had about 10% that said no. And we had, 12 to 13% say maybe. And so that's why we had that event today, to give
Gotcha.
folks information they need to potentially,
Okay.
say yes or no to the vaccination. The
Okay.
district's not taking a position, on that. We're providing opportunities for folks to get information, but yeah.
And I just can add in just a little skosh, which is um, I work those clinics on the weekends, and the number of familiar faces was heartening. And we had teachers and educators, every level from districts all the way to from Joyce, all the way to Squim. I mean, it was a joyous feeling there.
Good.
So I
Good.
will say that much. There are people who just really wanted that vaccine, and they were there. And we
Good.
still have lots of spots open for this Saturday. If you know anybody, please get those spots filled up.
Okay.
Superintendent Brewer, you're going to talk a little bit about the strategic plan.
Yes, it's the next item on the agenda.
Okay, go ahead with that.
All right, Carmen, can you pull that up again? So as a draft only this evening, I wanted to share just our thoughts on paper right now. And again, we have time to develop how we want to execute the strategic planning process. I'll give it just a minute. So the plan, while we bring it up, the plan really evolves around this similar concept that we used for the PACAC and also the partners in education at the Lincoln Center, which the backbone of that plan gives the board the authority to appoint members from the community to participate in this process. We know that, getting the right people at the table is the most important thing if we're going to have a strategic plan that's inclusive and is well thought out and executed from lots of different points of view. This plan, for not consideration for vote tonight, but just to start a conversation with the board, provides the background, the membership. I've rethought the position on equity being its own standalone item. I think that's absolutely the wrong direction to go. It's embedded in our work. So you can see that the membership, shared this evening would be the board appointing 15 members for a teaching and learning group to work with equity, with teaching and learning group to work on the strategic plan, social emotional learning, 15 individuals, and the facilities, 15 individuals. Then scrolling down, the strategic planning committee, their objectives, create this is going to be our procedures and procedures as it relates to the next 3 to 5 years in working through the goals around teaching and learning, social emotional learning, and facilities, with an emphasis on equity. The timelines could be, and I think this is important to note, from April to July, so we have a little bit of time to develop this process to make sure the board's comfortable with how the team is selected. And then working on building the plan August through December, and then executing the plan and board approval at the end of December, and starting a new plan, launching the plan in 2022. The next document that Carmen will share is the, if that's a direction the board would like to go, would be an application process. And again, an individual or the evaluation is done by the board So I think that's really important that the board, you know, appoints individuals on these 3 teams. And scrolling down just a little bit, what group an individual, I think that's an old document there, but what individual that what group the individual would like to be assigned to, as well as then answering 3 key questions around the why do you want to be a part of the committee, and what committees have you participated in the past, and you know, what's the history around your work regarding that subgroup. So again, the power falls in with that plan to the board around appointing the right people in the right places to get the inclusion that you would desire. So this is meant tonight. It's not an action item. It's meant tonight to just throw it out to start a conversation so that, you know, a month or 2 from now, we have a clear plan on how this team will be formed.
Okay, does anybody have any opinions or things to share or questions?
I will put this on Friday notes so that you can, you know, mark it up and be prepared to share opinions in the near future around, you know, it's not what you want. And if that's not it, then what do you want?
Okay, so with that, then we go on. I look forward to this work because it's time and it's ready, and I'm happy to see us starting to move forward. I know this last year has been rather defined that we had this plan that this would be our year we'd start working on it, and we've had a few other things on our plate. So this is going to take us into just items for our next agenda.
Yeah, so our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, March 25th. We are scheduled to start at 5:30 p.m. on that evening. We do have mid-year SIP reviews from Hamilton, Franklin, and Jefferson. Then at 6 o'clock, we will have a budget development work session, an important start to developing our budget to be approved by August. So we'll have an hour to start the conversation around budget priorities for this board moving forward. The regular meeting is set for 7 p.m. At that meeting, we will have a Lincoln High School report, a Port Angeles School District Student of the Month from Lincoln, Students of the Month from Lincoln, a February financial report, an enrollment report, and approval of the board meeting schedule for the 2021-22 school year.
All right. Does anybody else have any other order of business? Anything else needs to be talked about? Well, then I am going to adjourn this meeting. All right.